Yo, 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 what's going on, YouTube? It's your boy Nate the Great coming at you with another live. You already know if you're new to the channel, like, share, comment, and subscribe. So the returning friends and family, you already know it's peace and blessings. I'm gonna give y'all some time to tune in case these notifications ain't go out. Marlene, baby. Hope all well with you. Happy Hump Day. First things first, you already know. Hopefully everybody having a blessed and productive Wednesday. Hopefully everybody smoothly was able to get through the work day. I know for those on the west, you might still just be getting home from work. Be safe on your travels. For those across seas, you're already in the next day. So hopefully you being safe and productive. Hopefully your kids was able to get through the school day. Also, for those celebrating birthdays, yes, we know it's Libra season right now. Hopefully all of y'all are keeping yourself safe, enjoying every moment of your special day. Like I said, another year, another blessing around the sun. Appreciate everybody that tuned in last night for the conversation. Definitely was a great one. Um, for those that missed it, you can definitely catch the replay. Before I get to the topic at hand, I do kind of want to just expound a little bit more as far as what I was saying um, for the content creators that need to hear it. One thing you also have to remember, hold on myself before I get crazy. One thing you got to remember too, uh, I was going to cram it in last night, but I felt like I did what I had to do. So, um, the one thing to remember too, as content creators, is um, you got to be able to make the right adjustments when needed. Depending on what you feel needs to be adjusted as far as your growth, make sure you're doing that. Like I said, keep adding different elements to what you're doing overall. Because prime example, you could have a product, right? But you could have different variations or versions of that product. You can't just stay with the same product day in and day out. So, don't be afraid to look outside the box and get some ideas and inspirations. And also remember again that, if you come in here on a different basis of things, just keep doing what works for you. And when you feel like it's not working or it's not doing what you feel it should be doing, then you figure out what you need to add to the curriculum. It's just like a scenario when it comes to school. How you think you're going to keep the kids interested if you're not giving them something that's going to challenge them? At least the smart ones always seem to be that way. If you're not challenging them, if you're not adding something different to whatever, they ain't going to be worried about learning. Content creators, remember that if you do have other content creators that you support, or, if you just happen to be moving around in areas and you networking and doing whatever, make sure you do stop by to some of those people. Because again, those people will definitely be influential. You know, James, what's going on, my guy? I see the coffee cups in the chat. Like I was saying last night, and I'll say it again today. Don't be afraid to be yourself. Just bring what you can bring. Do what you can do. And like I said, the people will come. The right support will come to you. The right support will stay with you through thick and thin. If you're going to take your time out and dedicate yourself to what you're doing, again, Don't let nothing stop. And when you feel like you might be a little burnt out, or when you feel like you might need to just take some days to refresh or recoup, keep doing so. That's the one thing again as a content creator. You got to remember, you still need to add space for your actual life. I know some of y'all get into emotion of just start creating content and consistently create. Trust me, because I'm speaking from experience. You know, there's days I could have tucked off, weeks I could have tucked off. Didn't do it because I felt like I was doing what was needed. You know, yeah, you could do what's needed for the people as far as the content that you're bringing, but you also got to remember you got to do what's needed for yourself as well too. There's some of y'all who again will, put yourselves in a frustrating position because it's like you're trying to beat yourself up about why certain things ain't working. Like I said, sometimes you might just have to add an extra element to something, and when you do so, you'll see the differences, you'll see the changes. But again, it's good to network. One thing I'm gonna tell you, especially you future content creators, like I said last night, and I didn't get a chance to say it, you're gonna have to network and move around. And I mean move around to where you could pretty much soak up what you need to soak up. You know, don't be afraid to promote yourself. Chrissy, baby. Like I said, don't be afraid to promote yourself. Don't be afraid to move around and mingle and chat with different people because again, it's about network. And if that's what you plan on doing, you plan on taking your channel to monetization and beyond, you're gonna have to network. You know, and those are the best ways to network. You can't just stay in one sector. Got to be in multiple spots, or at least if you can do it. But you know, also remember that it is it is kind of hard to support all content creators when you're a content creator yourself. So remember that part too. You could support those, you know, but if you like me to a degree, sometimes it's gonna be difficult to. So the ones that you can't catch, try to catch them on the following or catch the replay. The one thing I will say, and that I've seen this in multiple areas, I've seen some people who have stifled themselves or they basically stopped doing what they was doing because they was feeling at a crossroads. I'm gonna be honest with you. When you're a content creator and you're also a supporter, you gotta always remember you are essentially the content creator of your own page. So as much as you want to support, there's gonna be some days you're gonna have to focus on what you're gonna have to focus on, so you can make sure the content you're bringing to your channel is the most the greatest ones that you can bring. You know, bring some good, healthy balance to yourself too. You know, I sat in and I'll tell you right now. I could tell you right now. I try to support everybody that I do support, that I know support me. But it's gonna be difficult sometimes. But sometimes, like I said, mostly everybody that you support might be live at the same time. You know. Also, remember that the algorithm will always be tricky, especially during the school year. I meant to tell y'all that last night. Some of y'all, again, even if you decide that's what you're going to start doing, it's going to be tricky during the school year. So you got to be able to catch it. You'll be able to catch it when people are mostly either settled in from work and school. I done did a couple little experiments myself on a few things when I was first starting with this content creation. And like I said, during the school year, for some of y'all, I know some of y'all be wanting to do early or early morning or early afternoon. If you choose to do so, you just got to have a set time and just do it. But just know you're not always going to have the algorithm. If that's what y'all worried about, because I know some of y'all be worried about views and likes and shit like that. But just know, sometimes you might get a great algorithm, sometimes you might not. But also remember too, in some instances, some people are looking for entertainment. No matter what it is you're doing, no matter what it is you're bringing, you got to have some form of entertainment and make sure that everybody is interacting. Everybody in the chat, everybody that's coming through the support. If you're doing the panels, same thing. Johnny, what's going on? You must be new here. You must be new here. James, you already know what to do just in case. You know, because I'm about to really get into a deep conversation, but I wanted to finish off some of the things I did leave out for the content creators who are starting off fresh and those who have already started content and seem like they at a crossroads. So, but again, just remember that the algorithm will be tricky. But if you solid and you focused on what you're doing, regardless to what, it'll hit the algorithm. So don't let that discourage you neither. Because I know some people will get discouraged. I can't really say I've ever gotten discouraged like that at all. Little confused at times, but other than that, not frustrated. And that's the thing some of you content creators have to remember. Some days you might be frustrated, but you got to remember this is what comes with the territory. You know, but as long as you're consistent and the content that you're bringing, and if you stay consistent on whatever path that you're moving while you're on here, you pretty much be in a good spot. You know, for some, y'all might reach out, you might reach your goals of subs and whatever watch time hours. Some of y'all might reach it kind of quick, doing it legitly. Some of y'all might have to take a little step. Y'all might have to take some extra steps. But regardless of what you're trying to do and how you're trying to do it, just make sure that you're bringing the best that you can bring to the people. And also remember when it's time for you to take a step back and just, rest and recoup, you do so. Serious, baby. Uh, Time to get somebody up out of here, I see. Like I said, like clockwork. That's another thing for some of you content creators. It doesn't matter what you doing or what you bringing, even if you're the most positive of content creators. Just expect to get idiot behavior and troll behavior. But if you don't have trolls, remember that you're not doing something right. You're doing something right when you know you got consistent people who ain't got a consistent life, but will try to mess up or try to distract what you're doing. So just remember that, content creators. And then if you know how to handle them like I do and multiple others do, you have fun with it. So, I'm always have fun with this part. But, again, just remember, if you're doing everything, you know, doing everything with substance and with logic, you can pretty much reach for the stars, you know. Yeah, I know. And I hope we ain't got another one because you must got some time on your hand. Let's see where this goes at, y'all. Before I get into this deep conversation, let me let these little motherfuckers get their little time real quick. So, anything y'all feel y'all need to say or want to say before I get into this real deep conversation? Because this is a conversation tonight that we not playing around with. Because this is something that should really be taken serious. And this is also something that it should be spread worldwide. A while back, I was talking about protection of the youth, protection of the kids, right? And protection at all costs. Now, for some of y'all that remember, I spoke about a situation where one of these gangs had got wrapped up in a RICO case, but it had to deal with sex trafficking and sex trafficking of minors. Now, again, how would some of you people feel if you find out that there's young ones out there being sold out there in the streets? Would you be able to try to get that person away from that type of life? Would you be able to try to get that person some good help? That's a question that everybody should be able to answer with a straightforward answer. Let me break this down for you. Angela, baby, I feel like this. Listen to me real good. At these tender ages, right? Shouldn't none of these young ones be involved in any form of prostitution or sex trafficking? I'm sorry, you're sick. You're sick and demented because you are basically taking advantage of somebody who is still young minded, easily influenced, and can easily be corrupted, easily be turned out in these streets like some of the adults that you've seen. I've always felt like this. If you're an adult and you have the nerve to have that type of situation going on, you need to be committed or you need to be held to the highest standards of the law. There's no way you could tell me you would feel comfortable having these young ones out here doing the unthinkable just to survive. Now, I get it. There are some situations where some of these some of these young ones who are being out there in these streets being trafficked, some of them are runaways. Not gonna lie to you, some of them are runaways, and they decide I'm gonna run somewhere where I could at least feel somewhat safe and I could survive. Some of these people are getting forced into this act because let's be real. There's some people who they are still kidnapping kids as we speak. This is why I say, as a parent, a guardian, or anything, it's time for y'all to really start safeguarding to the fullest extent. And it's necessary because, again, it's sad when you look at the numbers and see how many kids go missing, how many teens go missing. And then in some cases, you see how many of them get wrapped up in that type of life. No kid, I don't care how young, should be forced into that life at all. These children and these teenagers deserve to live their lives to the fullest and have great experiences, not traumatic ones, you know. Oh, okay. Okay. Well, unfortunately, we don't care. Oh, they're gonna come out, Angela. You wanna know why? Because they want to try to distract the real conversation, but it's not gonna happen. That's why I be getting them up out of here. Because this is something that we not playing with. How would you feel as a parent if your child went missing? You don't know where your child is, no whereabouts, no nothing. And you find out down the road that your child is still alive but has been forced into that type of trade. How would you feel? And at Geraldine, baby, and at what case do you take steps into your own hands? Some parents are going to take things into their own hands. Some people might go by the law, others ain't. I feel like this: either the law of the land or the justice law. These people deserve to go to jail. These people deserve to stay in it. Because if you could sit here and actually prey on the young and the innocent, what else are you willing to do? Gotta think about it. Any real active adult, I mean, because I'll be honest with you. In that game right there, even when you was talking about pimps, right? Yeah, you gotta think about it. They wasn't trying to take no young girls out there like that. And even when they did, they got looked at funny. Because again, these is young ones. Not too hip, not too wise. Dee baby. And again, the fact that you could sit here and take advantage of these young ones who, again, still have a life ahead of them or could possibly, be something greater in life, you're stopping them from being their true potential, stopping them from getting it. I don't understand it. If you think that that's the greatest way to get you some money is by prostituting out these young ones, it's sad. It's sad that you can even be in that line of work and look yourself in the mirror every day, not knowing that you are disturbing the balance of a family. Let's keep that real. Yeah, for the ones who have been kidnapped, for the ones who might have been taken away, you are destroying a family. You know, you're destroying a family when you think to do that. And this is why it's important to look within your communities and see what's going on. And when you see that certain things just ain't looking right, and especially if it can be a danger to these young ones around you, y'all should stand up in numbers, stand up in unison, take back your community. Like I said, when it comes down to certain things, people cry most, but you're not willing to stand in numbers and band together. If you all band together for the right causes, you'll be surprised what changes you could actually make. And I think about it. And these are the ones that they prey on. They prey on the runaways. They prey on the ones that have been kidnapped, been snatched up. If you think trafficking is just statewide, that shit is worldwide. It could be your luck. It be your luck if you happen to stop something. Because there are some situations and some videos I have seen where these young ones could have got snatched up, but good Samaritans stepped in and did what they were supposed to do. And I think that's important, again, as a citizen, to do what you're supposed to do. You fight for what you're supposed to fight for. You fight for your family. And you also supposed to fight for those who are close to the family. Like I said, being a good Samaritan don't hurt. It don't hurt to stand up to the injustices that's going on right now. What's going on, my guy? For those that just tuned in, make sure you hit that like button. That's what I'm saying. You are supposed to stand up. You are supposed to make sure that protection comes at all costs. How could you, as a grown up, know that certain things is going on within the youth in your community, but you're not willing to say nothing? But if it hit close to home, then you want everybody to jump out the woodworks for you. See, certain things are supposed to be reciprocated. I feel when it comes down to safety, There's supposed to be protocols at hand. I can say prime example. We see that there's still forms of prostitution going on, right? And who's the most liable ones you're going to see out there? Yeah, you might get some middle-aged ones. You might have some old ones, but you're definitely going to have a lot of young ones, which is it's a sickness in itself. But it's also a common danger because you never know. If your child is not out there, somebody your child knows or probably is associated with could be out there. And that right there should definitely raise the awareness of people. For the fathers out there, how would you feel if you found out your daughter was out there doing things they weren't supposed to be doing? Same question for the mothers. How would you feel? We know in some scenarios, there are young ones out there doing stuff that they ain't supposed to be doing, but they ain't being forced to do it. They're just doing it because they following the leader. Or they wasn't given the right form of information and knowledge. But there are other instances where they are out there, and they're out there because again, they've been tricked. Nobody is forced into a lifestyle. That's BS right there. Because look how many young ones are being forced into scenarios right now worldwide. The fact that the numbers of children that go missing and then some of them end up right into that field of play, that's alarming right there. And this is where, again, as a community, we need to strengthen up and, again, take back what's rightfully ours within the community. If you don't have these young ones out here selling their bodies, you got these young ones out here selling the drugs. And like I said, can't fully blame them for what's going on when you have adults who are not being reasonable nor logical. Because any adult that could think to put a young one out there to trick themselves out to get some money, you cold hearted. You cold hearted, and you deserve to get, again, punished by the fullest extent of the law. The problem is, like I said, people will turn a blind eye to certain things. Nobody cares until it really hits close to home. And then now it makes you wake up and realize that, again, it's time for a change. How can you protect those young ones from being snatched up and kidnapped? This is a worldwide question. How do you manage to stop that? Simple. You can't. Because sometimes all it takes is a split second. You get distracted, and that could be it. But I would always say this too. When you got your young ones with you, you keep them close to you. They supposed to be stuck to the hip. Because again, you never know what could happen. You decide to let them roam off somewhere, and they either might get lost or somebody could end up snatching them up. But I would also say the best way to keep that situation from happening is, again, teaching them the rules and regulations when it comes down to the streets. You don't speak to strangers. Doesn't matter if they say they do know your mother or your father. Teach them those basics so they can prepare themselves for that situation if it ever happens. Know that if something don't look right, try to find the nearest help, call the nearest adult. Because again, I've seen some police videos where, or surveillance videos too, where these young ones could have got snatched up, kidnapped. But you had good Samaritans that wasn't playing that. To be quite honest, you even have young adults who are still being forcibly kidnapped. That's alarming right there. That should tell you that again, these national dangers, these international dangers, they still exist. You gotta think about it. Think of it from the parents' perspective, right? How do you think some of those parents feel that their child might have got kidnapped as a young kid and could possibly be on the other side of the world? If you don't have no form of information, no witnesses, no nothing, your child could be good as gone. But again, when you have people who will turn a blind eye or keep themselves silent, that's going to always be a problem. Appreciate you for dropping those links, serious baby. Working hard in this damn security camera, baby. But that's something to think about and look at. There's no way you could tell me if you've seen a scenario and you don't bring yourself forward with information, that's a problem. Because I'm quite sure if the shoe was on the other foot and it was your family or somebody close to your family, you would want anybody with any information to bring it forward. And I think that's a problem right now, you know, because there are some scenarios where you could possibly stop certain crimes from happening. If again you say something, you say what's needed. You gotta have a heart and a conscience, you know, because there's some of these scenarios that hit the world news. And when it do hit the world news, guess what? If you might have been or you might have seen something that you know just didn't look right, you could possibly help out. What's so hard about that? If you don't abide by street rules, right? What's stopping you from helping these people out? Some of y'all could probably help these people who are missing kids find them kids. Because to be quite honest, there are some scenarios where these kids might have got kidnapped and can still be in the same damn vicinity, just up under your nose. Yeah, I believe in that. If you see something, say something. Because I'm from a city where we done lost the towers. We done survived Hurricane Sandy. Shoot. We done survived the pandemic. And guess what? There's still some things that we New Yorkers just refuse to allow to happen. And I'm not saying that it's not like that anywhere else. But us in particular, we really don't play with certain things. We don't. And once we feel a type of way about something, we standing on it. Doesn't matter how it happens. We're standing on it. If you have people who are preying and being predators to these young ones, y'all need to put the boots on them like you're supposed to put the boots on their neck. That's how it's supposed to be. Because again, that's not cool at all. That's not normal. No child should ever be snatched or taken away from their family if they do have a loving family. Look at all the pain and the heartache that you're causing. The fact that you could think again to snatch these young ones up and drag them into that type of life. I honestly be real with you. If you have been accustomed to doing that, you should receive life. If you've been accustomed to doing something like that, oh no, you need to go for life and stay there. That's my opinion on it. Stay there. Because you had the common knowledge to say this ain't right, but you still did it. Some people would try to say they was forced into making these decisions. You wasn't forced. If you got a mind, you could think. You still got time to not make that decision. So I said, as a community, it is time for everybody to start taking notice to certain things. And again, when you see something just ain't sitting right, it ain't hitting right, you act upon it. No doubt, Jody, maybe. And I think that's important again. Because remember, when it's all said and done, that's one of the worst feelings that you could feel. Having somebody snatched up from under you. There's a lot of different evils in the world. We know that. Some of it has been around since the beginning of time. And for the rest of it, these are things that have just been happening within the same confines. Like I said, you can't turn a blind eye when it comes to that. You can't. Because again, what's supposed to be the most important thing? Safety. Safety over everything. How can you keep your community safe? How can you keep the kids around you safe when you're not paying close attention? Again, you're supposed to be active and observant and vigilant on all codes. That's just like if you catch somebody doing something inappropriate in front of the kids or in front of the teens, you stop that shit. Y'all remember the story I told y'all about the dude? I think he was trying to entice a young one. They whooped that man ass and had him tied up around that phone pole. That's what should happen in a lot of cases. When you see creep behavior, you stand on it. If you feel you can't stand on it, see if you can flag down the cop or let it be known. Oh shoot, how y'all doing now? Y'all want to record everything? Record this shit and send it to a police station or send it to somebody that could actually get you the help. Some of those videos that I looked at surveillance wise is crazy because these young ones was moments away from being possibly snatched away for the rest of their lives. In some instances, you already know that for the ones that they feel are just collateral damage, that's exactly what they'll be. And again, it's sad. These are things we don't take into consideration. And these are things that you honestly can't overlook neither. Some of these stories didn't have a happy ending. For you parents out there, if you are going to be out and about, if you feel like you're going to be doing any form of family activities, if you know you got young ones that you still might need to hold their hands, you got those who you just feel like you definitely need to keep an extra eye out on, please do so. There's a reason why they used to do these type of videos, and they used to bring awareness on all levels. Marlene, baby. They was doing that for safety reasons because it was necessary to do so. These are things you should be practicing with your offspring. And I'm speaking to those who are coming from the good tracks. Just because you might be coming from the good tracks don't mean you still can't be a victim at some point. And in order to avoid that, you need to have these necessary talks, even when they're young. Have these necessary talks about how to keep themselves safe and protected until they could get the full protection. If you do that, 9 out of 10, you could possibly, save what's needed. Save the precious ones. Save the ones who could possibly become the future architects of the future. Now, I'm sorry, but I feel a type of way about that because you got to think about it. There are some scenarios where this is exactly what's happening. Some of these people who are getting wrapped up or being wrapped around some of these cases, when you look at the ages, it's like, damn, you still got a whole life ahead of you. How did you manage to get in the midst of this? Everybody's stories is different though. Like I said, some people were kidnapped and forced into this life. Others, runaways. And the ones that don't get wrapped up in the trafficking, like I said, they already be out here. When they ain't got nobody giving them no form of help, shelter, or wisdom, this is what they're gonna do. How can you protect those young ones at all costs? Well, to be quite honest, it's a joint effort. It shouldn't just be the people within the community guiding everything. Again, you got other agencies who are supposed to be paying attention to these things too. Because again, we can't see everything. We only see what's really presented in front of us. And to be quite honest, it's sad. It's sad because you gotta look at it. These young ones is supposed to be in school. They supposed to be studying. They supposed to be trying to get through the best years of their life. They supposed to be experiencing life, not being forced into this type of act. And you're not just mentally scarring them, you're emotionally scarring them. It is sad though. Again, you have some people who will turn the blind eye. But when you turn that blind eye and something bad does really happen, the question would be, how do you look yourself in the mirror every day knowing that you could have saved your life and you chose not to do? Question that need to be asked. And this is why it's important, again, within the community, that you have these talks, not just with your kids, but kids in general. Do they really know how to protect themselves in the event of something like that happening? You got to teach them the ways of critical thinking because it is important. And it really is. It's a sad moment when, again, you have scenarios within your community that's showing you where the destruction is lying at. Yo, what's going on, man? Like I said, how would you feel if you find out there was a group of people who were doing the unthinkable? How would you feel about that? I honestly think and believe that, again, when you have people who are getting caught up in RICO cases like that, when it's involving sex trafficking, they should face the maximum penalty because you had enough common sense to know what you did was wrong, but you still chose to do it. So that goes to show you don't care about the value of life. You don't care about any of that. You only cared about what was important at that time frame, which is either the money or the power. No doubt. Appreciate you, Angela, baby. Have a good one. Have a good one. But I appreciate everybody rocking out. Like I said, just have to have this conversation. Because again, how are you going to protect? What the hell? Dude just almost crashed. My bad, y'all. Not everybody meant to have a license neither, but that's another story. People be tweaking. Ah, man. But yeah, if you could possibly stop something from happening, would you do it? I believe some people would, others won't. And you want to know why others won't? Because it's the same thing I spoke about. Oh, it ain't my family. It ain't my people, so I don't care. But you should care. Because again, this is another young life that's going to get wrapped up and turned out to the wrong forms of how to live life. And in some instances, it will get to a point where some of them will feel that's the only way they're going to be able to make it out. And that's the wrong false of hope to be giving somebody. Anybody who is actively doing anything like that and involving these young ones, yeah, you should be tucking in. None of these youth out here should be preyed on for anything. I don't care. They still youth. And they still got time to make something happen in their life. They're not being given the opportunity when you have people out here who are willing to do the utmost just to disturb that balance. My bad, I had to catch myself again. I almost got into a dark mode real quick. But that's because I really stand on what I stand on. How many heartbreaking stories have we had of people who kids went missing? And we ain't talking about the runaways. We talking about people who are coming from good places. How many sad stories have we gotten where these young ones have been wrapped up and never had no reunification with their actual family? Or when they do, they are already an adult or probably got kids of their own. Or they done got wrapped up, and by the time there is a reunification, the damage has already been done. These are things that people don't think about, you know. But again, you never know what could be happening in your own community. You know, sis was 13, ran away for 2 weeks, worst 2 weeks. Like, yeah, and that's what I'm saying, bro. I'm sorry you had to go through that. And I feel bad for anybody who got to go through that because that's the one thing nobody wants to hear is that their family ran away or their family went missing. And I'm speaking on both angles because there's some people who didn't run away; they just got kidnapped. And then we got those who have ran away and got wrapped up into the streets, whether it's within the community or wherever the hell they got shipped to. Because let's not forget about that. There are some people that have been kidnapped and then been somewhere on the opposite side of the world, far away from. It's not fair to think that you could be in that line of work or could be around that type of work. And that's not even work. That's just a whole crime and a half. That's a human rights crime. No human should be violated nor kidnapped nor taken away from. Like I said, look how many heartbreaking stories we did have. Young ones done got wrapped up and didn't come home at all, unalived. Let's not forget about that neither. Again, if they feel you collateral damage, they don't care. They will take you out. And the fact that, again, this is why it's important for those right now to have these discussions with their kids. Practice real safety and self-protection tips to keep themselves from being a part of that ring. And it's sad because you got to think about it. You got young children like that who are running away from home. And just like you said, being with adults that should know better. There's no way I could have been 26 and being with somebody that's up under me. No, hell no. Even if I felt like, even if I felt like I would have done something, the most I would have done was try to find out where the hell you live and take you home. That's about it. Where's your parents? Where's your grandparents? Where's somebody that actually cares about you? Why are you out here like this? I would try to do my best to make sure they get back to where they got to get to and get them away from whatever the fuck that they are around. Shouldn't be wrapped up in those situations right there. Not at all. And that's the sad reality that some of y'all fail to realize. There are some scenarios where these young ones are being wrapped up with adults that are twice their age. You don't find nothing wrong with that? No, no, Chrissy. I'm just saying it from that standpoint of what Yoke was talking about. I couldn't see myself in that position at 26 and nah. You how old? Where's your parents at? Where's your uncles in them? Where's your social security card and shit? Let me try to get you to the state building or something. I don't know. But surprising enough, you have motherfuckers out here that are like that. Oh, it ain't just the men, it's the women too. You'd be surprised. That's why I said this is a talk that you need to have on both ends. because your young kings could also be victims of that circumstance. Just because it's not always talked about or discussed, don't mean that it's not happening. You know, so all I'm saying is, you got to think about it. These type of scenarios is things that you can't overlook no more. It's about safety at all costs. You got to remember there are some sick individuals out here, and they will prey on the youngest people if they can. You got to make sure that your child is not one of them, because some of these people don't get caught right away. Some people do. All it takes is the right people to stand up. And I would also say to have this strong talk with your kids. If they was a victim of circumstance and you're just finding out about it, take the proper steps. When you take the proper steps, you could possibly start getting these people to fuck off the streets. Excuse my language and part of my French. But nah, they gotta go. They have to go. Because they will continue to keep on with the same cycle of degradation and humiliation. You're forcing these kids into a life that has no upside. You're forcing them into a situation that, like I said, to scar them for life. I think that's the most ill-fated thing that anybody could do. Forcing anyone into something for all the wrong reasons. There is no upside to them being out here in these streets. Like I said, at what point do we get back to critical thinking and strategies that are going to help? Now, there are some scenarios where, you know, things have happened so quickly you didn't even know that it happened. But to be quite honest with you, if everybody within the community is on point with things, if they being observant like they're supposed to be, guess what? Some of these things won't take place. Because you gotta think about it. These people don't strike when they know it's groups of people or they know it's a big crowd of people. They'll attack when they know it's barely anybody around. And that's a sad notion right there. I'm gonna get you when nobody's around, or I'm gonna get you when you least expect it. And sadly enough, that's exactly what happens. And this is a worldwide problem because again, it's not just young women who are being kidnapped and being taken away from families. You got young men too as well. Like I said, there are some things that they don't want to talk about when it comes down to the young men and the young boys. But guess what? You're gonna have to have these talks because again, it's happening. Your boy could be 13, 14 years old and could possibly be up with an adult that's over 30. That's what I'm saying. We have sick individuals, men and women out here, who prey on these young ones. And to be quite honest, if you're on that fucking boat, shoot, they need to drag you all the way to the deepest parts of the ocean and let you drown. Because no way you could tell me you have the mindset to again deal with somebody who could barely take care of themselves and could barely think for themselves. That's why I said I want to ask the people again. Like, how do we get to a grander stage of protection? How can we prevent some of these youth from being snatched up or being just taken away? See, like some parents, their kids went missing or them being kidnapped. The minute you set your eyes off them, that's why I said it's important to teach them the safety steps. If you are going to be separated from your family, know a meeting point that you know you're not going to be confused with, and everybody is basically here for the roll call and the body count. Again, you got to teach these young ones, including yours, all the preventive tips. Right now in the world, somewhere around the world, there's a young one being kidnapped, male or female. And 9 out of 10, it happened while there were no real witnesses, or it happened the minute these people decide to take their eyes off the prize, which is the youth. That's just like you having a group of kids in the playground right now. You got to keep your eyes on all of them, because if one of them decide they gonna run off, who knows what could happen? That child could be hurt in any way, shape, or form. That child could be lost out there for God knows how long. You know, that's why I said when it comes to certain talks, I don't mind having them. I just gotta have the right mindset, because I'm not gonna lie, things like this make me a little uneasy, and it's uneasy because again, you're talking to somebody who has been through certain amounts of experiences in their life to where they can talk about it. I knew people who went missing, ran away, never came back. Don't know if they still alive now or not. That's one thing for some of you parents. And I'm gonna say the ones who are actually involved with their children. You gotta make sure that you have these discussions and talks with your young ones, so it don't be a situation where if they decide they want to run away, that'll be the last time they coming back home forever. There's so many different dangers in the world. You have to keep that communication line open with your young ones, for real. You have to. They got to be willing to come to you no matter what. Whether they was a victim or not, they should be able to come to you. That's why I said you got to build a bond and the trust within them. And it's the same way within the community. All the male figures and the female figures, yeah, this goes out for y'all too. Some of y'all could possibly prevent certain things from happening. But again, you got to be in that right mindset. Why should these children come into a world and then become victims of the world? Questions that need to be asked. It is sad because, again, they have so much life and so much potential. Who knows what they could be? But sadly enough, some of them will never live a normal life like they should. Or what normal life they did have could be turned upside down in an instant. For some of y'all that be in these crowded areas like the malls and shopping centers, if you know you got young ones, make sure you keep them close to the hip. There should be no separation. Now, with your teens and your preteens, they're different because they know better. But when you got the young ones, because this is what they prey on, either these super young ones or the young teens. Anything under 18, trust me, they're going for that. It's sad to say it that way, and it's sick to even think that this could happen, but it could happen. So again, yeah, I have to start bringing that awareness back. Meeting places, code words, keeping that cell phone handy, recording for your safety. That's another thing. Recording for your safety. If things don't seem right or look right, you try to get the help. I would say for some of y'all parents, make sure you are tracking wherever your kids at. There's a reason why a lot of people are getting these tracking chips either in the phones or on certain properties that belong to their kids. Because if anything happens or if anything looks out of the ordinary, at least you know where the last whereabouts were. Again, it only takes a small percentage for your child to be one of those. If you don't teach them what you're supposed to teach them now. Some of these young ones are being wrapped up into it because if they're coming from the backgrounds that I speak about, now I'm speaking back to that. They coming from the background where there is no parents, no grandparents, nobody is giving them the love, the care, and the attention that they are supposed to be getting. They will most likely do whatever feels right to them. So if they feel they gonna run away because they feel they not loved, or if they feel like there is no love in that atmosphere, they could be good as gone. So blessed, baby. You already know if y'all just tuned in, hit the like button. And if y'all new to the channel, like, share, comment, and subscribe. And definitely make sure you sharing this live out because again, these is talks that people don't want to have, but we should have. Because again, this is about protection of the youth at all costs. And some of you could possibly stop a possible kidnapping or a possible abduction from happening if you are all paying attention. And if you are all willing to help when you're supposed to help. Let's not forget that neither. Because again, can't turn a blind eye to that when it comes to protection. I think it's important. It is very important again to reestablish what needs to be reestablished. Reestablish safety measures, and just have these talks when needed. For some of y'all, if you know you see something that just don't look right, stand up. Again, shouldn't see these young men and women out in these streets all hours of the night. You could tell when something is out of place because you could just tell by how they look. if they look frightened or startled, 9 out of 10 they are. See, you don't want to have these talks, but in the same token, these are talks that are necessary and needed. Some of y'all will take things for granted, but you shouldn't. Sorry, but you shouldn't. This is why it's important, like I said, for everybody to be involved the way they're supposed to be involved. Everybody play their position. And maybe, just maybe, you know, we all could be a part of stopping something that could turn tragic. Yeah, my bad, y'all. You're going to hear some loudness in a minute. But yeah, you gotta remember that. You know, how would you feel if your child was one of those victims? I know most people don't want to even imagine it, but that's a hypothetical that needs to be asked. How would you feel, and what links would you go to protect yours from being the next victim? And not even just from protecting them from the potential kidnappings and the sex trafficking. What links would you go to stop a predator? That's a good question. To what extent are you willing to take it to protect your child, whether they was a victim or not? What steps and protocols would you take? Because again, some people are going to go by the book. They're going to go by the law. Others are going to take the law into their own hands. What side you stand on, it depends on you. But in my overall honest opinion, I've always felt this way. If you're able to do those type of things and you've gotten away with it, at some point you're gonna meet your doom. Gonna meet it. Gonna meet your maker. Why? Because again, how long you think you're gonna keep hurting the people, especially the young ones who can't protect themselves? How long you think you're gonna get away with that before you get stopped? One thing I can say about that divine creator is when it does come down to that form of mistreatment, them predators usually meet they doom sooner than later. Some of them. Some might get away, but then again, some of these people might have gotten away with it only because you have people turn a blind eye. If you know somebody might have been a victim, if somebody did confide in you, you need to tell them to confide in somebody and get some help. Definitely spread that word around. Let it be known. Because yeah, you're gonna have some of them who, if they was already in trouble for that crime, they're gonna be on the registry. But you might have some who slip cracks depending on if they moved and if they registered or not. And I think that's the sad part. Some people you automatically have to register as soon as you move into an area, especially if it's an area like that. Some people will say that that's a little too much. No, that's the right amount because we know who the hell is in our community and we know who to look out for just in case if anything does happen. That is a truth right there, you know. The grassroots of safety is making sure that your community is safe from these type of people more than anything. A predator, in my opinion, is no different from a drug dealer. It's no different from a serial killer. There is no difference. You're committing a crime. You're committing a crime against humankind, period. You're destroying and unaliving the most precious things in life. Not fair. Not fair at all that we have come this far as a civilization only to not care about these specific things. Again, these specific things that I speak about tonight could definitely affect somebody at some point. So we need to have these talks, preparation talks that are very prevalent to this day. It's important. Men step up, women step up. When you see something that just don't look right and don't feel right, speak on it. Do your due diligence. Make sure that that's not what it is. Also, make sure you're not jumping to conclusions. It is time for y'all to step it up, though. Again, you have different evils that are happening within your community. Some of them is right up under your nose. Don't be afraid to do what you need to do. When you see something, say something. Simple as that. And when you say something, you better do something. Don't wait till it's too late, and don't wait till it hits close to home for you to want to be active. Everybody should be active in their community and watch what's going on in their community. I don't care if you live in the street life or you live in the citizen life. When you see some of these immoral acts happening, you need to stand up on it and make sure that it doesn't happen again. And continue to put the pressure on anybody who thinks to get into that line. Public shaming used to be a thing, right? We need to start bringing that back. That is another thing I feel. We need to start bringing that back. Again, for the safety and the protection of those ones that need the protection, we got to stand firm, got to stand strong. And again, we have to be willing to do whatever it takes to keep them from being in the grasp of those situations. Some of these young ones who have been kidnapped end up abusing drugs, using and abusing. Some of them will even overdose. You want to know why they doing that? They're doing that because they trying to stop the pain. They trying to escape whatever reality that they might be in right now. And that's even a worse thing. Having someone separated from their family and then they end up untimely passing away because of the drug abuse or whatever's being done to them. If that don't make you say it's time to really make a change and stand up, I don't know what will. But I'm passionate about that though. Because again, they deserve a chance. They deserve a chance to live a comfortable life or live a normal life. They do not deserve to be snatched away from their family. They deserve to be loved and embraced by their family. Give me 1 second, y'all. 1 second. Uh huh. See y'all in here arguing. Coffee cups in the chat. Tea cups in the chat. I see y'all in here. See y'all in here. But yeah, we really need to remember that. You know, some of y'all should not be that cold hearted and that selfish again to allow these young ones to be separated from their families. And y'all can't be that cold hearted to want to use them for all the wrong reasons. There's some of y'all who should step up, and I mean actually step up and put a stop to certain things that you see. There's nothing wrong with trying to bring a little correction to your community. Point blank. The link is pinned in case anybody want to chime in on the topic. Because again, we got to get to better measurements of protection. You know, no matter what their background is or the severity of the background, they shouldn't be thrown and tossed and forced into a life that's not for them. He started it. Uh huh. Uh huh. He started it. Now you dry snitching. I'm messing with you. You dry snitching now? Why I do? Why I do? Why I do? You dry snitch? No, but you know you gotta think about that. When it's all said and done, these are the things that we really need to try to focus on. You gotta make sure that your community is safe at all costs. Some of these people really do be preying on the young. Some of these people still be going to the neighbor schools and the parks and stuff like that. Pay attention. For those parents out there who got young ones, pay attention. Always be aware of your surroundings. And when something don't look right or seem right, you you stop it any way you possibly can. Think that's important. That's what I'm saying. You know, right now there's a child being kidnapped somewhere in the world. You gotta think about it. There's different time zones in the world. So right now somebody could possibly be going missing or could possibly be dragged into what we call the street life. Anybody who is being a part of or you know was being a part of those type of interactions, don't hesitate to do what's necessary. Because you gotta always remember, you can end up being in that same seat. And what will you have done then? But yeah, no, it's sad. It's sad again that there's so many different dangers lurking even within your community. But if you're not willing to band up and stand up, how do you expect some of these things to change? How do you expect another situation from occurring like that? These are questions that need to be asked. These are conversations that need to be had. So And for some who do know people who have been through that form of scare, again, y'all would be doing the greatest thing by bringing out these awarenesses and situations when you need to. It's definitely necessary to do so. You got to bring awareness worldwide. Because again, these type of crimes are happening all around. And in the long run, the only way it will be somewhat suppressed or even come to some form of hope is if, again, we all get back to being observant and standing our grounds. Appreciate you, serious baby. But these are things that we definitely need to chime in on. Because again, it shouldn't be a situation where it hits close to home and now all of a sudden you want to be involved. And again, I know some people don't want to have these talks. I don't care. I'm sorry to say it that way. I don't care. These are talks that need to happen. Again, we could get back to critical thinking and we could get back to protecting our borders the way we supposed to. If you don't, if you don't stand for something, you're gonna fall for anything. And in some situations, people are falling for the trap. But again, these young ones should not be caught up or in the midst of situations that could possibly do more damage to them than anything. So I said it's important. It's important to do a wellness check and just do a check all around the board, period. And again, parents, please pay close attention to the things that your children say and the things that they do. And when you see something is off with a specific pattern, you find out what the situation is. But again, when your kids do get of a certain age where they can understand everything, sit down and have these safety talks with them. It's good to practice these safety tips too. See, it's going to be times I'm going to be uncensored. There's going to be times I'm going to be professional. But there's also going to be times when I bring these truths here that people might not want to look at. I'm all for it. I'm one of the small handful that don't care to have these conversations. Because if it's going to help strengthen our borders and strengthen our community and strengthen that protection net that we're supposed to have around these young ones, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. But if that don't bring any form of alarm and awareness to you as an adult, then I'm sad to say that you are also desensitized. And it's time for you to get up out of there. Time to stop being selfish and start being selfless. Do what's necessary. But more and more, though, we just definitely need to have these talks and keep spreading the awareness. But we also shouldn't be censored neither. So I've always felt that we could strive for greater progresses in our communities. Again, if we band together, it doesn't matter race or creed. None of these young kids should be snatched away from families None of these young ones should be forced into a street life that is not for them. And anybody that thinks that it's cool for it to happen, you need to go check yourself into a psych ward. My views and opinions. The link is pinned in case anybody want to chime in. But best way to protect, at least in my opinion, is we try to go all around the board with it. So that means not just the people within the community, the federal agencies and everything else need to be in place too, just in case. They also need to change up the missing persons rule, basically. It shouldn't be no 24 to 48 hours of a person being missing before you could report them missing or before you could fill out a report. Because that's all the time it takes sometimes for these young ones who have been kidnapped or these ones who are missing to be in a world full of danger. We can't forget that at all. We cannot forget that at all. But hey, I'm just your average Joe, you know, having a regular conversation with the people. I would say for all the men and women in the communities that need to hear it worldwide, start being the good Samaritans. Start doing what feels right. You protect those who need the protection. Fight for what you believe in. And if you believe that there are scenarios that are happening, then it's time for y'all to stand up. Be that driving force for change. Public service announcement to those who need to hear it. You can't cry about certain things when you're not willing to make certain changes. We should change the way that we think about certain scenarios. Probably every minute that we think of right now, somebody is being forced into something that could alter their life forever. Again, when you see something, say something. That's it. No second thoughts, none of it. Again, how can we expect the best for the future when we're not trying to invest in the future? And I'm going to leave it there tonight. Felt I needed to have this conversation. How would you react if you found out that there was a group of people or even a gang that was involved in trafficking of minors? And what would you do to make sure that it doesn't happen again in your community? I'll leave that question and I'll revisit this situation again. You know, when I revisit something, we're going to get a great part two. Tonight was more about that. For those who are just tuning in, I appreciate y'all, but I'm not going to hold y'all all night. I got to be on point. You already know, plantation flow. Shoot, so. But I will most likely be back again tomorrow night. with another conversation. It might be a half an hour earlier. We'll see how this pans out. Between 8 and 9, just look for me. And again, we're gonna definitely have this conversation. I'll revisit it on another day. I appreciate everybody that's been a part of the build, still becoming a part of the build. And yeah, we still gonna keep bringing what we need to bringing that heat. But again, parents, guardians, it's time for us to step up our maximum efforts of safety. Not just safety for ourselves, but safety for the ones who really are important around us. Again, that link is pinned. That link will be pinned when I have this conversation again too. So, like I said, I know some people are uncomfortable having these conversations. Some people have never been through these trying acts. Get that. But it's always good to bring awareness from all cylinders, and I'm all for that. I'm going to have an in-depth conversation tomorrow, definitely. Certain talks that I have, they always coincide within each other. And for good reasons. We do get something or an extra added element of surprise, but we also get an extra added element of trying to come up with a solution. And if you're not going to be a part of the solution, you will continuously be a part of the problem. But the problem that we do have nowadays is people are too divided. We should never be divided when it comes down to certain elements and aspects of life. I plan on doing that. I plan on bringing that awareness to you until you get tired of me. And then I'm still going to bring the awareness until you get tired of me because it's necessary. If we ain't willing to learn, if we ain't willing to unite, I ain't going to never take flight. So, but I appreciate y'all for rocking out. For those celebrating birthdays, I didn't forget about y'all. I did not forget about y'all. Get your dance shoes ready. Another year and another blessing around the sun for everybody celebrating birthdays. Yes, I know it's still Libra season. Still Libra season. But just remember what comes after Libras. Yes. Yes. And the madness begins. But yeah, definitely appreciate everybody that rocked out. And again, we will definitely revisit this conversation. I'll be back tomorrow night with something great. And the link will be pinned too. Hopefully y'all enjoy the rest of your evenings. I see you over here, y'all in here laughing, right, man? Let me be nosy real quick before I get up out of here. I just got my coon flush. I'm tired of y'all with this tea versus coffee war. Didi, stop co-signing. Stop co-signing, Didi. I told. I told. Yes, series. Oh Lord, Scorpio season. I'm trying to debate what I'm gonna do, y'all, but we gonna talk about that too. But yeah, y'all stay blessed and definitely enjoy your upcoming birthday weekends. Again, give your praises where it's due. If you was able to wake up and breathe breath of fresh air, don't take that for granted. Because we have people who no longer here with us to do so. Enjoy every moment of your special day and just keep doing what you're doing. And for the rest of y'all, I will definitely see y'all tomorrow night. Always a pleasure to bring sun to the people, you know. Don't tell me to leave, DD. DD, stop co-signing. See, this will keep getting you in trouble. You keep co-signing, I'm serious. You see what happens? Now co-sign with James and drink some of that coffee. Go ahead. Go ahead. Bring all that antifreeze out. Come on in. Have a good night, Chrissy, baby. Mm-hmm. Told you I got signed up a trick bag for y'all. Don't worry. But yeah, definitely appreciate y'all for rocking out. And those that are just tuning in, you can definitely catch the replay. That's about it. If y'all was new to the channel, like, share, comment, and subscribe. Shout out to the replay gang. Shout out to the Shadow Mafia and the Shadow Babies. Y'all know what it is, baby. Everybody that was in attendance tonight, y'all already know that love is love and it'll be reciprocated as such. I don't know how to be fake. All I can do is give you real. That's all I'm gonna do is give you real topics and real bills. I ain't the biggest what? All right. You're right. I'm the biggest co-signer of all time, serious. Now watch this. And co-sign this. Mm-hmm. See, y'all was over here embracing that good old motor oil. Embrace it. No, but I'll definitely be back tomorrow. Give or take. If you don't see me at 8:30, you'll see me at the latest. But we gonna definitely have a good conversation, and the link will be pinned again in case anybody want to chime in. Keith, you're late to church. Catch you on the rebound, my brother. You already know. Back to the plantation life. Back to the plantation life. But y'all stay safe. Keep that third eye open. Until the next live, we out of here. Peace and blessings.